really do.
When I get to talk to young people, and most young people think that it is really a straight line, and
Yes.
like there's no detours and there's no off ramps and things like that. And I think they struggle with that. The youth struggles with thinking they're setting a goal, like this is how it has to work, and if it doesn't, then
Mhm.
they fail.
Right.
So it's an important part of my conversations with them, of just showing them my path was a really windy road. I worked for the public school system for Miami-Dade County after college because I first was a news editor. I kind of forgot to mention that, but an opportunity to play softball, came back, my dad worked for the school system. He's like, hey, there's a job for you at the school system. Come work it. Stayed there for 7.5 soul crushing years. And I worked the desk. I worked the budgeting department for construction.
Oh,
I was the
wow.
youngest person, the youngest person besides me, what had a daughter my age. Um, and I love these people, and these people taught me different things, and like, again, the perspective aspect and things. But that job was really soul crushing. But in the middle of that, I found baseball, and I became a player on the women's national team. And so then I had a few teammates that were firefighters. I had a cousin who was a firefighter, and they would talk about it in such a passionate way, and how our skills were relatable as like an athlete going into it. And
Oh,
so yeah,
sure.
I kind of just went all in at that point, and heard pretty quickly, um, based off of athletic, being a collegiate athlete and things like that, and just being a very capable female as far as physicality went. And then did that for 7.5 years, and it allowed me to play baseball because I could exchange days,
Yeah.
and it allowed me to take on coaching and say yes to all the opportunities that came my way. So I was able to manipulate my schedule in a way that I now see the importance of it, because I could say yes to opportunities in baseball, or what they were paying, or what came of it, because I had a full-time job that was paying me a good amount of money. And so
Right.
I was really
Mhm.
able to take in all these opportunities and build myself a resume of sorts and my experience to then be available and qualified and good. Got the opportunity in professional baseball and with the women's national team. So,
It's amazing how life works like that. So,
and then all
Kit,
those things, my job in the school system taught me what I didn't want to do. Like, nobody can pay me any
Right.
amount to do that. And that's a
yeah.
really important lesson. So, I mean, honestly, if somebody came to me and was like, here's $1 million, work a desk job, I'd be like, I'm good, thanks. But and it's not to hate on it. It worked for my dad and he loved it, right? So, but yeah, and then my second job, a firefighter, my third, I guess at that point. But my firefighting taught me all these other skills, these skills of, I mean, I can sleep deprivation. That's like a really great skill. To be like happy or not be angry when you're sleep deprived, or like when you're like needing certain things, or hungry or tired or whatever the case may be, to still be a good person. That was a
Mhm.
really important lesson in firefighting, and you had to do that every day. So,
Oh, wow.
and just like putting yourself in those situations, I had to see all the high stress situations I had to see, and all of
Mhm.
those things I'll translate to my job here, even though they seem very different.
And what are you doing now with the women's national baseball team and the Oakland team?
So with the women's national team, I'm the manager, which was my original goal when I got into coaching. I knew that when I stopped playing, I wanted to coach, and the goal was to be the head coach, the manager of the
Mhm.
women's national team. And then along the way, I guess I talked too much. I started meeting a lot of people, and they're like, "Well, why don't you go into professional baseball?" I was big on that. I knew that MLB was going to start going in that direction. It was big on that it had to be a very good representation of what it meant to be a woman on field. I just kept telling them that you just need to make sure that it's qualified women, so that, because the gender is going to be judged based off that one person and that one individual. And so, don't just do it to do it, pick the right person and stuff. And they're like, well, how about you? And I was like, "What? I'm firefighting. I'm coaching, I'm goals to coach the women's team." And then that kind of grew the opportunity with the A's. But with the women's team, I'm the head coach since 2019. Um, we've won on the international stage since I've been there, but we haven't won a World Cup because we haven't won since I've been in
Mm.
charge. Our World Cup is this year. So last year was a qualifier for the first stage of the World Cup, and then this year is our final. And so we're looking to win. Our
Oh,
our goal
cool.
is to rule the entire world with an
I
Yes.
just
increase in.
oh,
I just love how you said that. We didn't win. The way you set it up was like a winner's attitude, right? we haven't won because there hasn't been one. Not because of this, that, or the other. The expectation is when we have one, we're winning it. Just so you
Yes.
know. I mean,
Yes.
right?
Kind of aggressive in my messaging of to the other teams. And every time our social media got, person, which has been a guy the last couple of years, every time they make a hype video and I'm like, guys, you're gonna get me like chumps and like, but no, the messaging has been that, and the women know it. And our motto is very aggressive. Our motto is rule the entire fucking world. And I'm sorry to curse, but that's our
awesome.
motto. They hashtag it all the time. It drives them. In 2018, I was an assistant on staff, and we placed fourth. And years prior, we had gotten bronze. The last time we won was the first time the team existed. And so Japan has always been winning the gold medal. And so in 2019, I took over and we were able to flip the team. So the same team that placed fourth in the 2018 team completely dominated on the Pan American circuit. So in 2020, it was our World Cup year, and then COVID canceled that. And then we switched to a 4-year plan for World Cups. And so unfortunately, it used to be every 2 years, which was great.
Oh, I see.
Now it's every 4.
When is it? And where is it?
It's this summer into the first weekend of August in Thunder Bay, Canada.
Oh,
And
okay.
we qualified last year. We placed first. We won every game by a good margin. And then, the messaging has been, we're setting the standard and we're coming for everyone.
That's awesome. I love it. That's it. So that's the confidence that brought us all here, because that's where that was the initial conversation when we were sitting at the closing table in 2022. And I think I told Andrea a bunch of this story too, but the closer left. And so you, Haley, and I are sitting there knowing that you two are kicking ass in male dominated industries. And I asked you guys, if you were to turn around and say something to your younger self, knowing where you are now, what would you say? Do you remember what you said?
And I recently said this again, and I'm not sure if it makes me sound like an asshole, but I'm not sure how it makes me sound. But I mean, it's the truth. I don't think I have to tell my younger self anything. My younger self knew it. My younger self is the reason I'm here, right? And had the passion, the drive to kind of continue to persevere. But when I was little, I would practice my autograph, if I was going to be famous one day, right? And so what did I think I was at that point? But yeah, I feel like a lot of times we get asked that question as people that are finding success in a certain field of what would you tell your younger self? Is don't listen to anyone, just keep going, just keep doing it, because I'm here, right? I did what she thought I could do. And so I feel like I don't want to change anything, because then that potentially changes the path of that young individual. So and it's kind of weird to speak outside of my body, but it's true. That was kind of set the foundation of what I can now accomplish.
No, I love it. And Andrea, her response at the closing table when I asked her, what would you say to yourself? She said, I would say, you go, little Veronica. Something like that.
Which is so adorable.
But that confidence is palpable and amazing. And not everybody would say that. Not everybody has that.
Well, Emmy and I were talking about this yesterday, and we don't have an answer for it. It's just more theoretical. So we thought, is that confidence something you are born with, or is that something that has been nurtured? And I think we kind of came to the conclusion that it's both, but a lot of the time it might just be an innate personality trait that people have early on. What do you think?
I think it's a combination of both. I think I don't have kids, but I've seen my niece and nephew from when they were babies. Their personalities are their personalities, right?
Right.
But I also think that it was nurtured in me in the way that my parents just, dealt with me and they are, period.
Mm-hmm.
But they created this foundation where they never put a limit to me because I was a girl. They never said I couldn't do something because I was a girl. And then so I've always been in these situations to support that and not make me feel like I'm lesser than. I was that at home. I grew up in a household that was Cuban, which is very crazy that there was also very non-gendered, and meaning my dad did laundry and cleaned the floors, or my mom helped him lay tile. And I always use it as an example because it actually happened. But mom was just as physical as far as a handyman, as far as my dad was contributing to the household in other ways. And so it was always about being the best team. And so I feel like it kind of just like grew confidence, right? And it just told me that I shouldn't be limited. And then I went to an all girls school where it was all about, empowering women and like, what are we gonna do? Like, who's gonna be the next president kind of thing. It wasn't any, creating this like lesser environment. And then I was on all these women's teams, right? I was surrounded by strong women in Division I sports, and then on the
Yeah.
women's national team. And so I think it was just like this foundation of being supported, no matter what gender I was or what I look like. So
Yeah.
I think it was a combination of both.
It is amazing because when Andrew and I have these conversations, because we're always trying to dissect, we get super curious and talking about confidence. That's where a lot of the kids that we talk to that have mental health struggles, that's where a lot of everything lives is sort of like lack of confidence. And so, yeah, it's hard to know which is coming first, chicken or the egg in that situation, because kid
Right.
with anxiety is really, yeah, I think confidence is a big part of it.
I think we talked about um, the power of our words. Like, they really matter, and kids read into them, and they listen. They're always listening. They're always watching, and it really affect them in a negative way. So to be very aware of the messaging you're sending out, and sometimes that's subliminal messaging, right? And then if we're talking about people that don't, how they identify, and kids struggling with that, and then the subliminal messaging is always that it's wrong or that it's bad or that they're wrong for it. It's like those things affect them in a way that we don't technically see,
Yeah.
but it is affecting them. And I think that's like the hard part of that is like how, and I'm very, very aware of it and very sensitive to it. So I'm always very careful when I'm addressing kids and girls and boys and, all ages really, because we don't know their prior experience and what they're going to find to be sensitive or them in a negative way.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can lift them, I mean, why not? Why do the opposite of like kind of bring them down?
Well, and that dialogue also then repeats itself in their own head.
Yeah.
Right.
Everything they hear from we as adults, us as adults. That doesn't sound right.
It's
Doesn't
all
matter. From adults, is repeated back into their head, and
Yeah.
then it's imprinted for the rest of their life, and
Yeah.
it becomes their
Yes.
own dialogue.
And you never
Right.
know what clicks, what they hold on to. You never know what
Right.
sound bite they're replaying over and over and over. But
That's a good point.
I think as parents and as the coach, you do have to be careful of that. And as a coach, you have such a unique, special role too, because you're not the parents. And the kids
Mhm.
really do look to you in a very different way. So I always felt like a coach has a very special place. And if they use their power and influence appropriately, they can really create such a positive impact on a young person, or the
Yes.
opposite. Yeah.
Yes, that spreads forevermore.
Yeah.
I mean, that's huge. That's huge. With the girls' baseball community, it's the majority of them are girls that play on boys' teams. So when I talk about these girls, I'm like, these are some of the most resilient little girls that are going to become resilient women that change the world, because they're constantly working through adversity. Every day of their lives since they're 6 years old, they're working through adversity. Every day somebody feels the need to tell them they should switch to softball. Every day someone tells them they don't belong. Every day like they feel other or outside. And so these little girls, these topics of conversations always come up. It's positive
Mhm.
self importance of it. Cling on to the positive messaging and not the negative messaging, because as humans we're so quick to, go on to the negative. And that's what they hear. And so I always use the example of my dad. My dad always tells me, "Oh, you're the best. You're the best." He's always told me that. I mean, I put a sock on and he's like, "You're the best," right? And so like as a kid, I think I would grab onto positive dialogue more than anything negative. And like those are things that like kind of got me through. And that's one example of, I'm sure, hundreds of things that they would tell me. But be aware of what you're grabbing onto and what you're repeating to yourself.
Mhm.
Know that there are women that have come through this and like have come out on the positive side of it and things like that. And sure enough, they really become exceptional women. And so I'm so fortunate that I get to lead them on the women's team, because it's 20 of those women that have gone through,
Right.
have fought to, just do this thing that they love, and then continue to do so. And so they're so much more passionate when they get on field and when they're playing. So yeah, but there's so much power in our words. So
Yeah.
being aware of that, because it's constant. And it's not about like, because then we go to the gentle parenting and the soft. It's not about that. It's just being aware of what's coming out of your mouth.
Yeah.
Are your women are young women that you're coaching right now, right?
Range from, on the national team, they range from 16 to 36.
Oh, wow. Really?
That's
Yes.
okay.
That's
So
interesting.
so
Well, they're
when
all
those girls, and even your 36-year-old, because
Oh,
as a 52-year-old, I say this too, but when I am sure under such intense pressure, sometimes those women could get into a negative thought pattern
mhm.
or a time of insecurity. What's your biggest advice to them? How do you coach them out of that to be into this place where positive self-talk is good?
I mean, just show them that I'm confident in them. I can give the idea that I'm confident in their ability, and I see how it could affect them. But everyone's different. I feel like I'm really good at reading people. When I first meet them and kind of getting energy, I say, I see energy, I'm a witch. But I get also good at read people. And so everyone's different, right? And some people
Right.
need a pat on the back, or some people need a pep talk, and some people need a little bit of a harsher, being addressed a little bit harsher. But usually it's showing them that I'm confident in them, gives them the confidence to be confident in themselves. And then you see it in their body language almost immediately, and you see them perk up, and then their performance also gets better.
Yeah.
And then you see the like the opposite of that when coaches are really negative or just demeaning. You see the body language go the opposite direction. And so when I see that, it pisses me off because like, what was the benefit of that? No one's like, you're not winning as a coach, and this player's not going to do any better if your player is all down in the dumps. So, and it's doing nothing for the future, kid in his development.
Right.
So yeah, usually it's my calm in the moment, I think helps. And then also my ability to be able to tell them that I'm confident in what they're doing, and they usually kind of come out of it as well.
And being able to read them. What would be an example or situation where you can tell a player will do better by you being more direct or harsh or
It's
aggressive?
just the player's personality. And at this point, I've known some of them. Some of them played on the team when I was on the team. I've known them for a long time. Um, Not to name a name, but one of our players is a little bit of a tougher personality. Very, a lot of people meet her and don't connect with her. I feel like I connect with her very well, but that person needs a little bit of a harsher. She knows what she did wrong, right?
Mhm.
Or what she could do better next time. She knows that already. Like I'm informing her of something she didn't know. So be a little bit more direct and, hey, let's go. You got this. Like forget that, kind of thing, and just letting her know that it's fine. Let's just move forward. I think sometimes helps with that kind of person. But it's just getting to know them off field that really. And I'm always watching and seeing what affects them at all times, and then how can change the way I address.
Mm.
I've been listening to this whole conversation, and I go back to the podcast, which is how do we help parents? And when Emmy said, I want to talk with Veronica, I was like thinking that's great because really a coach is kind of the best person that's skilled in the areas of managing people, right? And you said something that I think we've repeated on various episodes, but never tied together, which is be calm in the moment and then tell them, I believe in you. And so I picture when my daughter's having a panic attack or a child is ruminating over just such things, is it's so important to manage your own energy so that it's not reflecting on the child, but then also not giving into that piece of that negative self-talk, but turning it around and saying, I can see you're going to get through this. This is just temporary. Let's walk through the skills that you have to get through this moment.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
great observation, Andrea.
Energy.
That's it. That's all we need.
Wish
Energy
in
is
the
like,
world.
we just solved it. Solved everything. But energy is everything, right? Like I don't know. Don't want to bring
speak
any more
freely.
of the West, but you see it like in dogs' behaviors, right?
yeah.
Dogs usually reflect the energy of the household.
Yeah. So
No,
true.
and so like it's so true. So true.
Absolutely true.
And so like if dogs are picking it up, imagine humans, right? And like
Yes.
we all pick up on energy.
Mhm.
And to go back to firefighting, like again, I was in situations. So every crew had 2 firefighters, 2 medics, and a lieutenant that was in charge. And our lieutenant was like a saint of a woman. We're the only crew with 2 women on it, which was very cool.
So
And
cool.
our lieutenant was very calm in these chaotic situations. She was very, was able to see the whole picture, make decisions in a very calm way. And then that, gave us the sense of calm, and we would also be
Right.
calm, but working efficiently and fast and quickly, right? But very calm in it, which helped us be more efficient when we were working.
Mhm.
And then I don't want to talk bad about anybody, but they were, it is what it is. Some lieutenants weren't good at keeping the calm,
Mhm.
right? And there are people that are good at things and people that are not good at things,
Sure.
and
Right.
they got the position because they promoted and whatnot, and they can work on it. But you felt the energy different when the people that didn't know how to control the chaos were in charge,
Yeah.
right? So I was very aware of this, and so I would feel that. I would sit when the calls were chaotic and the person didn't know how to control chaos. I would sit in the back of the truck just in silence for a little bit.
Mhm.
What? And they would come in and be like, "That was a great call. We did great." And I was like, "We didn't. That was horrible. What?" and it was so crazy to me that they were so disconnected from the feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that experience just continues to teach me the importance of our energy. I'm trying to give that to our players in the Dominican, which I never got into, but to our players when they're in these stressful situations is trying to create that calm.
Yeah. It's so important for parents to hear. We had another conversation recently, Andrea and I, with somebody about, how the parents' reaction and demeanor with their kids, we don't even realize what we might be bleeding out. That's exacerbating a
Mhm.
situation. If our kid is in a panic and then we panic, right? Then that's not going to work. So I'm so glad you brought that up, Andrea, that tying together Veronica's words of wisdom. It's awesome. I
Well,
love that.
And I just heard something else that she said that is a good thing. When you were in the midst of the chaos because of somebody else, you pulled yourself into the van so that you had some moment to recenter yourself. You removed yourself from that situation. And I know that's another thing that I at least had to learn several years back because I was feeling their anxiety, and then it would ramp up, and then I would be like, okay, I need to pull myself back and I need to
Yeah.
recenter and get back to where I needed to be.
Mhm.
Yeah. And being very or saying it in a different way, but it's
Yeah.
being aware of what how we're affecting the situation with our energy.
Mhm.
Right? It's not
Absolutely.
necessarily the person on the other side of the counter or the other person on the other side of the conversation. It's, how is my energy affecting this conversation, this interaction, this situation? So also very, very important.
Mhm. What sort of
And,
Is
and
that
being
Go ahead.
present in it.
yeah. What sort of things do you do personally, Veronica, cultivate the energy that you want, or how do you take care of that?
Um, Well, in high pressure situations, I think my energy goes down, right? And so I stay in this calm. When the energy is down, I come up, right? Because I know the effect that my energy has, and one of my gifts is that I can create good community through my energy and good positive atmosphere. I am very quick to recognize when I need to kind of rise up
Mhm.
to elevate the energy in a situation. I did that in the firehouse all the time when we were sleep deprived. I would be like, "Good morning," and people were like, "What is wrong with you?" It was just why am I going to bring you down in a negative way? So that's probably the only conscious thing I do, and then after that, I kind of just feel it and
Yeah.
I kind of adapt to the situation as far as with the energy I need to put out.
A lot of today's culture is understanding your feelings, acknowledging your feelings, living in your feelings, which is good to a point. But I think on the other side of it is go ahead and acknowledge them, but then put on your pants and go out into the world and move that energy forward instead of wallowing in it. Because I think so often now people are hearing, okay, I need to feel my feelings, but then they stay there.
Right.
Stay there. And,
Mhm.
we just need to close the door and leave that behind for a little bit. And I think honestly, at least for me, when I do that, I feel so much better.
Mhm.
And then I am much more productive. I'm happier when I can just acknowledge that I had those feelings, but put them behind me.
Yeah.
Right. Let them affect your next 10 minutes, your next hour,
Yeah.
next day.
That's what I was going
Right.
to say. Talking about energy is part of it, but a lot of what you're speaking to, Veronica, is like your perspective and mindset that you're choosing on purpose,
Mhm.
minute by minute.
Mhm. I would say so. Um, and again, it goes back to knowing life is short, and we need to appreciate, the interactions and lift people up. And
Yeah.
I love humans and helping them optimize their potential. And so, if I can make somebody's day better with my attitude, then that's what I'm here for. So, I definitely, use that as an approach, and this does relate to sports, if we want to, bring it back and show both sides. But like, the way we're talking about not showing your emotions, that's this constant conversation with players. Um, the difference between a young player and a professional player is their ability to adjust, and how
Mm,
quickly they can do it after failure, especially after
Mhm.
failure. So this game of baseball is very, there's so much failure in it. And
yeah.
so how do they adjust from pitch to pitch, from out to out, from game to game? When you're young, it's like maybe a couple of games before you make an adjustment. Then you start to get older and it's maybe a game, and then it's an inning, and then it's a pitch to pitch. And the professionals, they're professionals for a reason. They can strike out one at bat and then come back and hit a home run, and then because they're able, or like make an error and then make the best play of the game, because they're able to kind of drop it, feel their feelings, understand what they meant in this, but pretty much in a split second, get rid of it, and then
Mhm.
leave it for after the game, postpone it for later to analyze it deeper, and then maybe work on something that could have affected it differently. But I think that's a skill that we gain in sport as well.
Mhm.
So I mean, I'm always going to say sports are really beneficial to everyone, but kids especially, is we learn to kind of adapt through these hardships.
That's powerful. How would you describe that as a young person? How do you coach a young person to do that? Rebound from
Um,
failure.
Again, it goes back to like the approach that we have as coaches and just approaching it in a positive way. I think a lot of times so I never said what I do with the A's, but a lot of times players think that they have to be perfect. And a lot of being a player developing is that they have to be vulnerable, make mistakes, and then build off, like continue to build off of them. In professional baseball, if you're not a big leaguer, you're there because of potential. So that means you're not good enough. So that
Mm,
means there has to be vulnerability. We have to break things down and we have to get better. Um, and so I think reminding them, and this is something we do in the Dominican, but this is something I even did at this last camp in January with the women. Is like, this is a development event, right? This is part of the process to be the best or to be great at this. Is that we all know as coaches, as adults, right? We go back to them not understanding that adults are still figuring it out too. We understand that mistakes are going to happen. They're part of the story. So it's okay to fail. So giving them the freedom to fail, I have found a lot of success in. And it's about how they, again, make the adjustment and then try to get better, and their work ethic that goes along with that. So a young player, I'll give you one example, but
yeah.
we have this Trailblazer event with MLB develops, which works through Major League Baseball, and it was like a 12 and under event, and we have for girls baseball, and it's 100 girls that come together. Usually, they're all the only girl on their boys team, and so they come together for this event, and they're all just playing baseball with other girls, so they're just baseball players. All the coaches are former women's national team players or women in the game. The umpires are females. It's very just like, hoorah, let's get this. And the little girls, obviously, they want to be really good because they're good on their boys' teams or whatever, and they want to show off. And
Uh-huh.
my team, we had a girl pitching on the mound, and she walks somebody. She's like getting down or something. Like, just makes me sad, right? Like,
Yeah.
this is supposed to be fun. And so she's like starting to tear up. So I go out there and I was like, hey, come on, you got this. Don't worry. What's the big deal? We have opportunity to score, kind of just like soften it up a little bit. And then she walks somebody else, and then I see her keep go, hey, just like in, man, I forgot the name of the movie. Just like Elsa, let it go.
Oh,
And they all start singing, let it go,
That's-
let
oh.
the entire field. And this girl, like, you see her body language go up, and like, oh, my coach doesn't care, so it's not a big deal, and like, it just allowed her this like space to be free, right? To
Yeah.
feel, to do whatever was going to come of this event. And I find that helps a lot of players when you give them that freedom and you show them that it's okay, it's part of it, and we're just going to keep working to get better. You see it in their body language and you see it in their performance.
Mm. Yeah, I've seen that. I'm sure you've used that too, Andrew, like with your kids when they're like in that kind of state, they're really upset or really anxious. If you can like inject humor or distract them, right? That seemed like that was a
Mhm.
big distraction. I love that. It's a good
Mhm.
tool.
We used to sing that song a lot
Yeah.
too. Not very well, but we did because it was so relevant
Yeah.
right when our kids were young. It had just come out, and it was so relevant. But
It's a great
positive
anthem.
little experience. Yeah, it really is for all of us.
Yeah.
For all of us, really. For heaven's
Yeah.
sake.
Right
I mean,
now,
we
you're
ended up
inner
winning the
Elsa.
game.
You
You
did?
won.
Oh, cool.
Won the game.
Yeah. I haven't had any kids play baseball. Well, actually, it never really took. I have sat on the sideline for baseball before, but you're right. That is a game of failures, right? That's the whole,
Yeah.
All this,
that's the whole thing.
the whole time.
Wow.
But you like, it's funny because it grabs you like that one hit when you're little. And it like keeps grabbing you in moments and like makes you like stick around, right? And then I think it's really hard, like if you analyze it from like the parent standpoint, because parents get really aggressive in baseball games.
Oh, really?
There's oh yeah, it's like it's a thing.
No kidding.
But like so many factors, like your kid's in a game that you fail more often than not, and you don't want your kid to fail, right? I can only imagine that as a
Painful.
you don't want them to fail. And then there's all these other factors that are affecting the umpire effects,
Mm-hmm.
and the umpire, especially when you're little, is bad, right? So then like now this human decision route like struck your kid out, and now your kid slumps his shoulders and walks back, and now he feels like a failure, right? And so like
Someone
the
hurt
coach
my kid.
decides what?
Yeah. It's like someone hurt my
Yeah, like-
kid.
It's like all the
Yeah.
coach decides not to play your kid, or he puts him in the outfit, whatever the case may be. But it's all these external factors that are affecting your kid's performance. And so people like protective. Of course they do.
Wow.
But it's like it's a game it's hard.
I never thought
But
of
then
that.
it goes back to the parents once they get into the car to make
Yes.
sure that they're not bringing that energy to their
Oh,
child.
so true.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because then all of a sudden that just exasperates and back to imprinting. That message then is imprinted in their mind that the ump is against them, that,
Yeah.
whatever,
Right.
that they did bad,
Mhm.
when in reality, let it go. And,
Mhm.
let's bring that energy forward.
Yeah.
Right. I talk about my brother. I've never talked about him on a podcast. I don't know if he's listening. This is not to hate on you, but I've told him before, like, assume one position and hold it. Because he talks with his hands like I do, and he's very expressive. And he could be mid-conversation about the mortgage rates in Miami with his buddy. But when my nephew looks over and sees him, all he sees is like him throwing his hands up, or him like dumping his head down because he's having a conversation about increasing mortgage rates, right? And so my nephew, because he maybe just missed the ball or struck out or whatever, this was when he was little, sees this and reads it as like negative towards him.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's making this thing. Like, right? Like this happened, right? And so
Yeah.
that's for everybody. And it was just like, whatever energy. So I would tell him, cross your arms, just like whether it's good or
Don't
bad. just
move.
stay
No
there.
flailing.
No failing. Like,
Yeah.
understand that he's looking to you to see if you're approving of whatever he just did or disapproving of
Oh,
it. If he
gosh.
sees you in mid-conversation, you're distracted. Now
Mhm.
he's going to assume it's about him.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the ability to know,
Yeah.
right? And so like those things really matter, right? And like even like verbiage about the umpire, because then you don't want to blame the umpire, because then it's like
Right.
this like blaming
Yeah.
personality either
Yeah.
that you don't want to create. So it's like you have to just be just
Yeah.
chill. It's like
Yeah.
so those things affect them
They do.
constantly,
Parents on
and
the
they don't hear
sideline.
they don't potentially hear the words, right? They're potentially
they
just
see
reading the
things.
energy and like your tone. And
Right.
I saw this cute little clip this morning on Facebook or Instagram, and it was of all of these kids that were probably 3 to 6 maybe doing these things, and their parents are videoing them or recording them. And then once the child sees their parent, their face just lights up. And there was this one little girl who was in gymnastics, and she could barely do a handstand. She was doing it on like one of those soft boxes, those boxes that you jump on. And she got up kind of, and then she just fell. And she went and she looked around and she saw her parents, and she was like she had just accomplished the best thing in the world. And I thought, oh, what a blessing that that parent was there to see that
Yeah.
and was focused on that, because she was so proud of what she did.
right,
And yeah, the sideline parenting is a big deal.
It is a big deal.
yes.
I think, it's funny you say baseball with sidelines are crazy, because I would swear that lacrosse parents are the worst. And my theory is that there's so much violence on the field, and because of the way the field is laid out, the parents are just a couple feet away from all the
Right.
impact and that high contact sport. So I think parents just get so wrapped into it. And I think a lot of parents are just can't separate from their child's pain and suffering, for one thing. And we also sometimes can't separate from their success. Like their success is so intertwined with our our
Right.
fulfillment. And that's also a recipe for failure too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, adversity, I think adversity makes us strong, right?
Yeah.
These moments could be teaching moments to, talk them through. Like you're always going to have a difficult person in your life, technically, right? Because you work for somebody, your boss, like it could be in
Yeah.
reference to like a coach, right? That maybe is difficult or negative. And it's really hard for me to just stay in that. And then it's a teaching moment. But, it's true. Like you're not always going to get along with everyone around you, right? You're not always going to get along with your boss. Like, see, I'm not saying to stay in that situation, but like it's going to be a factor for the rest of your life. So if you can start to talk those things out, and
Mhm.
sport allows that, it facilitates this opportunity to be around people that you don't necessarily see eye to eye with, or be led by somebody that you don't necessarily agree with. So it's puts you in these positions to potentially grow. So instead of a lot of times right now in youth sports culture, especially baseball, if a kid doesn't get an opportunity to start or play, a parent will pull them out and switch them. Even in collegiate sports, right? You could enter the
Mhm.
portal. So if the situation isn't working for you, they quickly get out, which is,
Mm.
I think, as an adult, very important to understand. Like if you're in a bad relationship, get out. If you're in a bad work situation, get out. But there's a level of adversity that needs to it also would help to work through as well, to then
Right.
make you stronger in the future.
Mhm.
And so right now, like the move of bailing out because you don't agree or whatever, it's not working for you, is also detrimental to their development as well. Because
Yeah.
you can't always bail out, right? Like you can't always do that.
Yeah, it's true. That's hard to navigate though, because what if you've got a kid on a team, competitive or not, and you have that screaming coach that's just so negative and just drilling your kid, and your kid is not thriving? Then what?
Yeah. I mean, I would remove the coach. I would try to do all
Remove the coach?
to remove that coach.
Oh, really? No kidding.
Oh yeah. That's a
Interesting.
detriment to every kid on that team.
Yeah.
Me removing my kid is only saving my kid. And now
Yeah.
there's 19 other kids that are just wearing it,
Yeah.
and being mentally abused.
It's
I
hard.
mean, it's hard.
It's hard to know because, like you said earlier, some kids do really well with the screaming coach.
But it's what is being yelled,
Right,
right?
what's being
What are
screamed.
the words?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
how is he using it?
Yeah.
Is it let's go? I mean, I had a coach that would say, "Get your head out of your ass."
Right.
I
Right.
responded well to that.
Yeah, my kid's like that
Right?
one too.
But guys, I responded really well to that. But it wasn't you suck, right? Like, what are you
Right,
doing?
right.
It wasn't that. And those are two different yelling coaches, right? It's hey, come on, stop messing around, you this, or yeah, even get your head out of your ass. That sounds negative, is not negative compared to you suck. What are you doing?
Yeah.
But it's the words behind it, It's
Yeah.
you could tell the difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gosh, I'm
Absolutely.
thinking
There's
about.
some coaches that it's in silence, right?
Yeah.
And that sucks too. But it's kind of reading I think it's being very aware of how your child or how the player is coming out from those experiences.
Mhm.
Are they negative? Are their heads? Are they starting to feel critical of themselves? What's happening that's causing this kid to feel like this? Maybe it's this coach that's doing it in silence behind you, right? So as a parent, you don't see it. But I think reading the kids, because the kids aren't just going to come all peppy out of those situations,
Mhm.
right? Either. So just kind of reading those things and seeing how that develops. But I would personally try to eliminate the coach.
Yeah.
I think the other thing, back to parents and their involvement, is then separating themselves from their child and saying, what is really happening here? Am I getting defensive because I'm feeling bad because he's not doing well or she's not doing well? Or is this triggering something from my past
Right.
that is causing this? Or is it a situation where the coach truly is causing harm to the kid?
Yeah.
And I speak from an outside perspective, right? I don't a kid, but So I see how it could be very difficult to kind of remove yourself, like you said, and
Right.
separate yourself from your child's experience, like what your experience is or your past experience. I could see that. And I see it in conversations, or I hear it in conversations with my brother about other parents and things like that. And it's really hard to do that because, yeah, it's hard. But I feel like finding that space where you're like really going back to the energy, reading your own energy and reading your child's energy and seeing, how this situation's affecting them. I
Mhm.
think that's like, and maybe that sounds really witchery.
No?
I don't know. But
I don't
I
think so.
think that it's like being very self-aware and then kind of separating yourself is really important.
Yeah. I love
we all go
team
ahead.
sports. I just my kids, I'm sure if they were sitting here too, would have so much to add to this conversation because the amount, not only failure, but such even managing pressure, high pressure situations, especially when you get to the point where you have to try out and lose or
Right.
just or like not get played. I've never been some of the most painful situations to watch as a parent and not be able to do anything. Like when my kid didn't play a whole game on his highest level, things like that. They learn so much from those experiences, so much. And every
agree.
coach, good, bad, or other, I think that, yeah, there's so much to be gained out there. So much.
It's like a constant like decision making, right?
Yeah.
Just deciding, if you're on the bench, I'm deciding to be a good teammate. I'm deciding to be engaged. Because
Yeah.
there's the opposite decision. I'm going to be pissed about it. I'm going to sit on the bench and I'm not going to talk to anyone. So I feel like it's constant opportunities to like grow as a person in those situations, especially
Mhm.
the bad ones, right? We learn from failure, unfortunately, more often than we learn from success. And so I feel like all those opportunities create actual decisions you have to make. Do I keep playing? Am I going to have a good attitude today? Am I going to try to still get better even though I'm not playing, right? Or like there's just so many different like personal, like self-improvement decisions you have to make in the moment.
Mhm. Yeah, and good healthy competition.
Yes. Yourself, like I said before, with people that you may not have surrounded yourself, in other situations with.
Yeah.
People from backgrounds, mindsets, different experiences, and it's just more opportunities to add to your personal experience and
Yeah.
on yourself. And there's like another benefit that I think when you're an athlete, you don't realize you might one day is that you're constantly surrounded by ambitious people. And
Mhm.
so,
Oh, good
especially in
point.
collegiate sports and you get into professional sports, every day you're surrounded by people with ambition, people that have like this external drive, that have a passion, that have great work ethic. And that's not the reality for everyone in every space, And so,
Mhm.
like really taking the opportunity to like let like that situation grow you in a positive way because you're really surrounded by the best of the best
Yeah.
for a period.
I always tell my kids to always have someone it's always good to have someone to chase too.
That elevates you, right? If
Yeah.
we can, I talk about that on the women's team a lot because our women's team is very special. I've said it already. Women's sports, I think in general is special, but the women really feel on that are doing baseball really are, they really understand this level of representation, that they're setting the standard. They're pioneering this sport in a way to kind of put it out in, the public eye and just be a good representation of what it means to be a girl or a woman in baseball. So they really act accordingly, and I'm very proud of them because I'm constantly preaching those things. So they have really bought in and believe it. But they help each other out. So one year we had a camp, and the way I do practices, it kind of is like small breakout groups. And so we had this former big leaguer come out for practice for the USA women's national team. And he was coaching our third baseman, who technically at that year was the backup third baseman. Our starting third baseman wasn't there yet because I don't even know if I'm supposed to always talk about this, but she's an FBI agent. So she couldn't be there for like the first 2
Oh,
days.
wow.
And so she missed 2 days of pretty much like one-on-ones with this former big leaguer. And when she gets there, they go out to third base, they go to about to start their practice, and the backup fills her in on everything that she learned from this big leaguer while the other one was there. So she gave her all the information.
Wow.
Right. And to like the guy was like, what is happening here? Like this will never happen in the men's game, right? And something that we always want is like help each other. Like if
They
you're
want
helping
everyone to succeed.
you get better, we're all elevating ourselves. And so if I make you better, I have to be better if I want to stay in line with you, right? Or in pace with you. So if we can elevate each other, it just means that we're elevating ourselves and the whole gets better.
That really is special, actually, that she did that because they were competing for the same spot.
Yeah, and it's throughout the team. I mean, our
Mhm.
veteran catcher helps the backups and the other catchers and things like that, and they're constantly just like helping each other, and whether they're the starter. And I think they understand that we are all there for the common goal of winning. So, yeah, so it's really special and it's fun to watch.
Global
But
domination, you mean, not just
global
winning.
domination, but that's specific to our. But that's like something that we could just do in life, outside of the game or outside of a sport. Is just surround yourself with good people that are ambitious, that have the right mindset, and then just continue to elevate each other.
Yeah. Hey, Veronica, what's it called when, in baseball, you hear about this a lot. I just read about it in this book, but I can't remember what it's called. If somebody just freezes, like they physically can't do the throwing motion. It just like freezes, but it's a mental block. Do you know what I'm talking about?
The yips.
What is it?
Yeah. The yips.
Yips.
It's not that they freeze necessarily. It's just like they can't throw the ball to the target.
Yeah. Like literally can't do it, but it's
Yeah.
something happens is it a
You don't
A
talk
mental
about
block?
it.
Oh.
You can't say that word.
Oh,
on the
really?
field.
Have you had to work
Yeah.
with somebody who had that?
Well, we had a pitcher in our org and then a catcher in our org as well. My college catcher, and she would run the ball to the pitcher when she had it for. It's hard.
Is
It's
it a
like
mental block?
it's like a mental block.
Do they
Yeah.
see like a psychologist for it?
There's team psychs.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah,
Did
it's
you
very hard.
Ted Lasso, do you remember when the one player killed the dog
Yes.
with his shot?
I think that was
and then
the
he
same
could
thing.
Yes.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
right.
and he couldn't get past
Couldn't
it.
kick.
I don't know if I could get past it if I killed a dog either, but that's beside the point.
Right. I mean, there's so much pressure, right, in those moments where they're performing. So like a couple bad throws like sends your brain into this spiral of like, what? I mean, now I'm going to get released or now I'm going to get cut.
Mhm.
And then it just like goes from there into this
Yeah.
whole cannonball of
I
thumb.
wonder how that's
Screen is so powerful.
It is so powerful. I wonder how that's related to anxiety. Is it?
Well,
Would
I
you
was
say
going
it's
to
the same?
say,
I mean, it's sports anxiety.
Yeah.
I would say.
if you were to take it out of sports, when we have kids, that's the trigger. There's something that's triggering that. And then the child starts anybody that has it starts ruminating, and it paralyzes that. And,
Mhm.
for that moment or whatever it is, we talk about school avoidance or something triggered that.
Oh, true.
And now
Yeah.
every time that child thinks about going back to school or goes back to school and something happens, it reinforces that message that I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do
Mhm.
this.
Right. And in medic, as a medic, I saw a lot of people with anxiety. And really the only thing we can do for those people is talk them through their breathing. So I go back to breathing is such an important part. And this is really, I smile right now because my mom used to scream at me and she still does. She is known to scream, "Don't forget to breathe."
Yes.
And I would always be like, "Of course, mom, I'm breathing." Right.
Yeah.
And to this day, the women on the national team, because my parents go to all the events, they also, one of our pitchers is like, I always hear her say, "Don't forget to breathe." I'm like,
So
so
true.
cute.
It is so true.
It is so
It sounds
important.
silly, but it is. Yeah.
It's so important to like you breathe, right? You control your heart rate, and then your heart rate is sending the right blood to your brain. Your heart controls your brain. So that's what would happen, right, with somebody with anxiety. And if you say you have a child with anxiety, you know it, right? The thoughts start going, and then their heart rate really starts going, and then their breathing is affected.
Yeah. People
And
hold their
then the
breath.
brain just goes into a whirlwind of thoughts, and
Yeah.
then which only just exasperates everything else, right? And so, like I really believe in controlling breathing and having the ability to do so, to control heart rate, to control brain.
Mm-hmm.
So that's actually something we're implementing in the Dominican complex is teaching them to control their heart rate
Oh, how? How are you doing that?
through breathing. Or like, after conditioning or something like that, where their heart rate's pumped up, or having them on a heart rate monitor, being able to see the heart rate come down as they're breathing, and then eventually evolving to the point that they're wearing it on the and then they're able to control it from inning to inning. Players, they're very young in the Dominican. So what I do in the Dominican Republic is I'm the coordinator of player development for the Oakland A's in our main Dominican. Every organization has an academy in the Dominican Republic. And so I'm in
Wow.
charge streamlining what is taught in our organization in the minor leagues, and making sure that it gets there and that we're teaching the same thing on the island to our young players. So our players are from the age of about 16 to 19, maybe a couple 20-year-olds. And now we're kind of like instilling the Oakland A's ways
Mhm.
with them.
So
just
these
like
are
a baseball.
boys. These are the boys.
These are the boys that I teach. I'm in charge of in the Dominican. And so I'm in charge of their development on field and off field. So meaning like making sure that their education is good, their English is good, and that their transition to the United States is as easy as possible. Before I saw the difference was like every level, league baseball is a jump, and from the Dominican to our Arizona Complex League, which is the lowest level of our minor league system, it was a really big leap, like culturally, physically, as far as baseball goes. So just making sure that they're getting the right instruction. So
Mhm.
coach the coaches, coach the players, the right information, and then like also the ability to adapt to this new culture,
Mhm.
or not necessarily adapt, but bridge the gap of sorts, like create middle ground where I'm able to teach the Latin guys maybe how these things are done in the US way. And then on the US side, making sure that when there's bias or there are things that are maybe considering the experience that players,
Mhm.
I'm able to kind of introduce them to why maybe that's happening down there or why this culture is the way it is. So just like so we can coexist. So to go back to I get to kind of think outside the box. Yes, things are streamlined as far as what we teach, but then how we kind of get there with certain things like this heart rate monitor kind of bring new ideas to the table. And so our young players, what I saw last year is that you see some of them have an anxiety on mound. You see some of them implode just because of their thoughts in their mind. And so
Oh, sure.
if teach them a little bit of controlling their breathing to control the moment, then I think it would be a benefit to them.
That's
But it's
amazing. That's so
Emmy, do you remember when we talked to Dr. Heather Davidson and she was talking about biofeedback?
yeah.
And that's what you're doing is
Mhm.
basically what a lot of psychologists do in their office for people that have anxiety. They put them through biofeedback. But I'm thinking as a parent that maybe can't get to a psychologist or whatever is get a heart rate monitor. You can totally see what how your heart rate is focusing. You don't need the computer screen at the office, or maybe that's a way
Yeah.
to reinforce it once they're at home, because biofeedback really is monitoring and being able to see how your heart rate is responding in different situations.
Yeah. I think breathing
Yeah.
is our most powerful tool. And my kids will say, I know I say this all the time to them. It's hard sometimes when my kids were younger to get the buy-in. It was hard for me to get them
Yeah.
to buy into breathing because it just seems so silly. It's like I'm breathing.
Right.
It's just that can't be all there is to it. But a lot of times, like you said, talking someone out of anxiety, getting them out of that thought pattern, it is as simple as breathing sometimes. And without even having a heart rate monitor, I bet you could do it with I wonder if you could do that with your Apple Watch. Does that work that
for
way?
sure.
Really?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because maybe more kids
So
can do that.
if you watch professional athletes, I mean, like pitchers, hitters, like they all do this like deep breath before.
Yeah.
It's because it's being taught to them. I mean, as far as like that's a technique to like control the nerves, right? Control,
Yeah.
create calm inside your body, which affects your brain and your performance. It is hard to teach the buy-in. We used to say on the medic side, we used to say, breathe, smell the flowers and blow out the candles.
Yes.
Like how people do it, right?
Mhm.
Smell the flowers
Yeah.
and blow out the candles. And again, this came from firefighting. In firefighting, when you have your pack on, your pack goes off. I think it's like a third of the way when your air is out. Your pack goes off, an alarm goes off. So if you're in a fire, that means you and your entire crew have to exit the building. That's like notifying you that you need to get out.
Yeah.
And so it's like a pride thing. You don't want to be the one whose pack goes off. You don't want to be the one to take your crew out of the building. So you need to really learn how to conserve your energy, your air
Oh.
consumption. And so obviously being physically fit is helpful. And also just like breathing correctly and letting the moment right overwhelm your breathing.
Right.
And so as training things, we would train with our packs on. We would do physical stairs, lift heavy things, hit things with a hammer. And then once our alarm went off, we would make our pack last as long as possible, because the flip side of that is if you're stuck in a building, you only have a certain amount of air. You want to make it last as long as possible. So you need to learn how to breathe through that. So we would sit and try to make our pack last as long as possible. And again, that was like a competition and a thing to see who could make it last the longest. And so those like things, besides the job and the chaos that I experienced in it, and created that ability to control the chaos as well. You really needed to learn how to control your breathing. It was really just about lowering your heart rate, and then your breathing would also get controlled. So another way that we're going to do it, so it goes with you said it with the kids and the parents, is I'm going to have if one has a heart rate monitor on, his partner is holding the phone with the heart rate on it, and he's got to talk him down from it. So I think that's a really good way to have him do it, because it's teaching him what self-talk he should be telling himself in that situation.
Wow, that
Right?
is so
It's sometimes
interesting.
easier to help somebody else, right? So it's probably easier for me to help you, Emmy, and be like, all right, you got this, breathe in through your nose, breathe out through your mouth. And if you're in the moment and really kind of going all out with your thoughts. But so I feel like that's a good moment to like reemphasize that could be helpful for him, that individual, in the moment when he's experiencing this.
We should all be hooked up to those
Absolutely.
all the time. And we have a satellite partner at our beck and call when we go off the rails.
Yes, it's a good idea. It's like your buddy,
Yeah.
like your heart rate buddy.
Yeah.
Well,
Breathing buddy.
also it's teaching you the importance of community and having somebody there when you need them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
It really
Could you
is.
imagine if two teenagers who had anxiety were doing this as an exercise? That'd be amazing.
Yeah, I think it could be really helpful.
I
Right?
think
Because
so
the one
too.
not having it in the moment has like the presence of mind to be able
Yeah.
Right.
to help them.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, they don't even have to have anxiety.
Yeah,
For heaven's
true.
sakes. I mean, if they just
it's
teach
not.
that in the schools,
Mhm.
teaching that in the schools, I mean, there's such basic information there of self-care
Mhm.
within just a simple exercise.
Right?
Wow.
Yeah.
We're revolutionizing this thing. We're thinking outside the box. I'll give you an example. So a friend of mine my college teammate, my best friend from college, she moved to Miami, married a Cuban guy, has 2 daughters. So I convinced her to move and live by me in Miami. And one of her daughters is like this exceptional gymnast right now. She's 8, but she's like so good. She keeps winning all these competitions. She's the youngest in her group. So within this, like my friend's like, I need her to like lose or something at one point, because I need her to like stay humble and like, like
She needs some hardship. Adversity. Where's the adversity?
yeah, totally. But she's like always trying to find these like lessons and talk her through it. And gymnastics, I think, is a hard one, because it's almost like an individual
Yeah,
sport,
for sure.
working against your teammates, but like you are a team. It's like kind of weird to me.
Mhm.
But she told me the other day, she always talks to her about body language. So like you don't want to give, because sometimes like the judge just read body language and makes this subconscious like decision based off your body language, and you also don't want to give off that energy to your teammates. And so she says that the one day, one of Claire's teammates, her best friend, messed up. I guess she was like about to start crying, and Claire went up to her and said, she goes, don't cry. We're not those kinds of girls. We're strong beasts. We got this. This is a little 7 at the time. So she's a little tiny girl. She's like, we're strong beasts. We got this. Don't cry. You got this. And so the little girl kind of perked up, did her thing. And then I think at the next competition, if I'm saying this story accurately, Claire messes up. And she kind of slumps her shoulder and comes off the floor. And the same friend comes up to her and says, let's go, Claire. We're going to stick to our goals. We're going to be strong beasts, and we're not going to cry.
Love
And
it.
so Claire was like, oh, you're right. That was his teaching lesson, was you were a good teammate to her. And then because of that, she was a good teammate to you. Right?
Yeah.
And she was able to talk in this difficult moment that you were having. You had this like, this person supporting you, and the importance of that.
Yeah. We always need a person. It's such a good point. No matter where you are, everyone can benefit from a coach or that kind of friend.
Yeah, being good to each other, even if you're competing. I mean, it only going to make you better.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah. So lots of teaching moments.
yeah. I never thought we would get so many great tidbits and analogies coming out of your being a firefighter. And then all of
Yes.
these, I already kind of figured out there was a ton to get out of team sports, but yeah, really specific, cool nuggets that pertain to anybody. I love it.
I know.
I mean, they all all the ones who kind of, they pertain to sport and sport to them. And
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many, honestly. I wish I could like encapsulate all my experiences with fire and how it's affected me, the positive and everything else.
Yeah. Do you write about it?
Sometimes,
Yeah.
like make notes in my phone and stuff. I have all these. The players on the national team get pep talks, and they're all fire based.
Oh, really?
House.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
You should record your pep talks. You know how people do guided
Yeah.
meditation? We could have Veronica's
Yeah.
pep talks.
I get people jacked up.
Yeah.
Like they're ready to go.
They're gonna
That'd be
dominate
awesome.
the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am really locked in on this whole heart rate monitor thing though. Because I've
It's a
been
good one.
I've been researching those rings. You know, there's
Yeah.
different kinds of
Aura
rings.
rings.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Different rings you could wear now, and people are tracking their monthly cycle and all these things. So now that we have all these devices that report live data about our
Mhm.
body and systems, then yeah, it makes perfect sense that we could be teaching kids to breathe because now they can be monitoring their body. That's amazing.
Yes.
I think we should just brand one. This way up. And it would be bright
Yes.
yellow.
I mean, yes. I'm in.
Although we would have to
That'd
give
be
it
so cool.
This Way Up by Veronica Alvarez.
She had to white
Because
label it.
we didn't actually come up with it.
That's
We just said that's a great idea.
it's a great idea. I wonder if they really work that way.
We'll see. I like the idea of like seeing it, right? And like,
Yeah.
I know
Me
that the
too.
look and stuff like collect data, but I feel like somebody that's really has to be very aware of their breathing and their heart rate and stuff as far as like being able to calm the nerves.
Yeah.
Like being able to see it, I think is nice.
Wow.
I also like the fact that with having the partner.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
think it's
love
like a really
that
good
exercise.
we haven't done it yet. I'm gonna go back down and I'm gonna make sure they do it before I get there. But also when I go back down, I'm gonna see if we a couple days of it and just talking them through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
seeing
think
it.
that's a great idea.
Yeah.
It
I think
is.
it's gonna really help our players that struggle with the pressure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
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 Especially because they're young. And this is part of their process. But if they can't get past it, which that was happening last year, like some of them couldn't get past that.
Right.
So then there was no development happening. And so it's part of every single young athlete's process is dealing with the nerves of it and dealing with the pressure.
Mhm.
If there's a block, I mean, nothing's going to come of it. So we need to create this ability to like work through that. And I think this is my best attempt at it as a now and see if it works and see if it helps the field that come through that.
This is your idea. Oh,
I think it's
brilliant.
excellent. Mhm.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not kidding. I'm going to be thinking about this all day because if all people can track their body that way and manage their breathing and then therefore their mind and everything, so empowering.
Absolutely.
Huh, I got to try that. Good for you, Veronica. That's amazing.
Thanks.
You go, little
You go, little
Veronica.
Veronica. But that's a perfect wrap up. You have to let us know how that works. That's amazing.
Okay, yeah.
Because now we
Well-
have created for free a new marketing campaign for Aura Ring. Aura Ring for mental
That's
health.
true. That's true.
We'll edit that out.
They say that sports is life, or there's some sort of quote. I was trying to look it up. I can't find the quote. But don't they say something like sports is life, or life is like a game of sports, or whatever? It
That's
really
a box of
is.
chocolates. You're thinking of the box.
Oh, no. But it really is. The things that you learn in sports are applicable to
Mhm.
daily life. And you don't have to be a
Well-
professional athlete, but you can incorporate all of those tools into your life to
Mhm.
really
All
all the time.
yes.
Yeah.
I could tell when people
Oh, really? Really?
So I mean, like, as far as like, and I'm not saying like I can't tell when like there are great people whether they played a sport or not, but like there are some people that it's just like very obvious. Right. Obviously, didn't play a sport.
Especially when you say, throw me this ball.
Well, no, having to do nothing with physical ability.
Right.
It's like, the way they deal with other people, the way they deal with differences, the way they deal with selfishness, right? Like there's like a level of selflessness that comes from team sports that I think is really important, especially when you're dealing with all sorts of people in your life, and so yeah, there's so many different layers to it, but you learn so much through sport. And um, obviously, the higher you go, the more difficult it becomes. And like, just you're dealing now with different people as well. We talked about before, you're dealing with an elite group, so you have to elevate yourself in a different way as well. Um, but there's so many lessons in sport.
Yeah, I would
And in
agree.
firefighting,
And
In
firefighting.
firefighting,
Yeah.
who
mhm,
would have known?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah,
the station life teaches you a lot.
bet.
It makes you resilient. Like, there's no one that can say anything about me that would harm me in
That's
an
great.
emotional or mental way.
Oh,
I was
really?
gonna say, I
'Cause
think
you
that
heard
was
it all.
probably before that. You seem like you were pretty tough before that too.
My experiences has helped me. But, yeah, I mean, definitely, they never got me in the firehouse. I mean, they
Yeah.
never poked this. I would just sit there and wait, and they would, the old guys that had experienced a little abrasive chatter, they knew, and they would wait, and the new guy would say something to me, and they would just sit there, like, oh, here it comes. And then I would just, fire
Yeah.
Oh, I
fire
love it.
shots.
So cute.
But yeah, like that environment is fun because you just like that interaction between people, and um, very aggressive and abrasive, and like you always had to have your guard up in a sense, and be ready. But it made it in a fun way. I mean, and maybe everyone would agree that it was fun. Some people may not have, but you learn a lot from those people, and there's really a lot of great people that were always willing to come to help and help each other. And so, being a part of that environment and to know those people.
Yeah. That would be a really interesting story if you were to tell it and all the life lessons that come from that. I think
Right.
one of the things that would be hardest for me in the firefighter culture is having to grocery shop as a group. I always see them grocery
Well,
shopping. I'm like, that would just stress me out.
That's funny.
well, technically only one person's in charge.
Oh, gotcha.
Of the grocery shopping?
Yeah,
Ah,
The others just go along to what, pep talk?
they're on the same truck, so they go along.
Oh, they have to go
oh,
together.
interesting.
Does he or she get the choice of what food is being bought?
Times, yeah.
Oh, that would
You have
just
good cooks, you have bad cooks, and
well,
people who you keep a chow locker.
Yeah.
Which so you contribute money every morning, and then that gives you 2 meals, and it gives you like snacks and like food in a locker. Every shift has a different locker. Um,
Oh, wow.
and so the person who cooks in our department, it was always the same like assignment that cooked, like the driver of the fire truck cook. In other departments, I think they like switch days and things like that, but person was in charge of where the money was.
oh,
I mean, they have to buy like oil to cook, salt,
Sure.
for like
Yeah.
things like that, coffee, and then some ask and recommendations or get what the crew wants, but others don't.
Ooh, could dissect
It's
that
a
too.
thing.
Who just takes it upon
I was just gonna
themselves
say
and
I
who
would need a
asks
heart
for
rate monitor right there.
Yeah, it's like a hot topic if somebody doesn't contribute to child that day or somebody brings their own food. Yeah, because then it affects everyone, like what you're consuming.
Yeah. Do you miss it?
Somebody just
Do you miss it?
I miss it. Miss that. I don't miss the calls we had to run and the things like we had to see. I miss the environment.
Yeah.
Sure.
What are your big goals? What's next for you after?
Ooh, I just want to contribute, in a positive way to the future of women in the game and women's baseball. And I'm able to do that through the MLB camps and USA Baseball, and obviously my role in professional baseball as well. And interviews like this and interviews that I get to do just kind of keeps creating visibility and things. And then for the women's team, I want it to be an Olympic sport. So I think we need to get more countries on board, even though we have a lot. We just need more to qualify, even as an option to be in the Olympics. But more countries are getting on board. Our women's team, a few of them went to Uganda to help grow the game there, and they
Oh, wow.
did a few years ago, and it's grown in a crazy way, and they're pretty much able to field a national team at some point coming up. And it's now in Great Britain and things like that. So the game is growing, and if I can facilitate, different countries getting access to the game or getting proper instruction, would love to be a part of that as well. Just getting more opportunities for the girls and the women in the game, and continue to show that we belong in the game at the professional level, the ability to be an asset to any organizations. If I could do that, then we're
That will be an amazing legacy.
I think little Veronica can do that.
Yeah.
No,
You're the best, Veronica.
she didn't put up with shit.
Oh, I love that. So girls can't play baseball right now as young girls? There's no girls baseball?
There's no girls baseball leagues for the most part,
Oh,
and
okay.
anything that's been done is like the girls choose to play on the boys teams. And then there's an organization called Baseball for All, and they do host tournaments for girls baseball. And so there are these like all girls
Oh,
teams
okay.
formed for those events. But as far as like a little league or like going to a park and like signing up for girls baseball, that doesn't exist.
Wow. Interesting.
didn't
One
know
day we're
that.
going to be like,
Yeah.
can you believe that they didn't have girls baseball? Right?
Right.
That's not too far away.
No.
I really don't think so. I think that we're going to move in that direction at some point. I always try to create things within the MLB spectrum of the MLB develops of youth camps and stuff. But they, if we create those opportunities for girls, I think it'll grow pretty quickly. So, right now, girls are either pushed to the softball table,
Mm-hmm.
and softball's great and it has great opportunities, but a lot of little girls just want to play baseball, and it's
Mhm.
a different sport. And so if they're given that option at the youth levels, I think that would really grow the sport really in a
Absolutely.
great way.
Yeah.
And actually in Mexico, they offer youth girls baseball. And because of their women's national team is now in the finals this coming year, and they just got on scene in 2019 for the first time. So
Oh, wow.
they're able to grow the sport. They've been able to grow the sport pretty quickly in
Mhm.
Mexico.
Wow. Gosh, Veronica, thank you so much. Thanks for sharing your
Yeah.
passion and all of your experience. And we're going to be cheering for you guys this summer for sure.
Yeah,
There are a few
maybe.
people that we can feel the energy through the microphone and through the displays and everything, and you can really feel your energy.
Yeah.
It just resonates.
Yeah.
It's just very positive.
It's
You're
all about good
amazing.
vibes.
Yeah.
Good vibes.
Yeah.
Good
In
vibes.
San Diego, we believe in that. Good vibes.
Yep.
Good vibes.
Oh my
I believe
gosh.
big time. So appreciate it. Thank you very much for
Thank you,
Thank
Veronica.
you. This is so
And
fun.
my favorite part, by the way, was watching Biggie go up. I think there might be steps behind you. I kept watching him go up and down and up and down. I'm like, oh, he's having fun back there.